Welcome back to Johnston TV. If you want to get the audio version of the show, subscribe to the podcast. Cover art right there. Okay, so Supernatural has wrapped up. You know, it had its series finale, and I know that happened a few weeks ago. And I didn't know how to do this show to summarize it because something just wasn't sitting right with me. There was something I felt like from episode 1 to the final episode that they missed out on. And a couple of things on the final episode that I was like, really? You kind of ruined it a little bit. I mean, this was supposed to be a spectacular event, and this is the final episode? This is what you do? Okay, so let's go ahead and see how they wrapped it up, because I think for the most part, they did a phenomenal job.
We're surrendering.
We'll kill each other.
I'm kind of enjoying this story now. The two of you rotting on a lifeless planet. Why are you smiling?
You lose. What did you do?
The boys showed up to duke it out. Turned Jack into a power vacuum.
And you killed your own son.
Releasing all kinds of God power. What are we calling you?
I'm me. People won't need to pray to me or to sacrifice to me.
Chuck, not writing our story anymore. We get to write our own.
Finally free.
Okay. So, as you can see, it did a really good job of wrapping that up. I think it was phenomenal that they made God the ultimate bad guy in the series finale in the final season. I mean, let's face it, after everything that they've gone through, facing off all the demons, facing off Lucifer, the Leviathans, you know, God's sister, and everything else, you couldn't have it any other way than to have God himself be the ultimate bad guy that they needed to take on, because he's the Almighty, the creator of everything. How the heck do you defeat God? And so throughout the series, they've gone through some nice twists. I mean, at first they focused just on demon and demon lore, you know, going through the vampires. And then when they introduced angels, I mean, come on, everyone was expecting angels to be this all-powerful, could defeat any demons, and then they made them dicks. Right? Made them not much better than the demons themselves, and were willing to torture people in order to do what they thought was God's plan. And then made it so that angels could die. You know, of course, that's with the angel blade. And then they introduced the archangels, and the archangels weren't much better. And then you had the archangel blade, which allowed for them to die. And then you had some of the angel on angel fight. So it was great how they went through the demon lore. It was great how they went through angels and how they played with that. And then it was great how they went through with God and, you know, being characterized as Chuck. I mean, I figured out Chuck was God at the end of, what was it, season 5 or season 6? I think it was at the end of season 6. Excuse me if I get the seasons wrong. When, you know, Lucifer and Michael were going to battle it out, and they end up both falling into the cage. And then you see Chuck there drinking his cup of coffee, and then all of a sudden he fades away. That's when I figured out he was God. And then I was trying to figure out, when were they going to reveal that? Now, they did a great lore of the 4 horsemen, death. I mean, we saw all of that. Now, I do feel like they missed out on something here, because they went all the way through the lore of demons, and then through the Bible, you know, Jack going to the Garden of Eden to get his soul back, as well as, well, Adam, as in Adam and Eve. Of course, we met Eve. She was a demon that helped release Lucifer, you know, and then we finally meet Adam. It's like, whoa, okay, they went through and did all of that. And Jack, they did a nice twist there. Lucifer has a son. Well, in all lore, that's supposed to be the Antichrist. Very evil, very bad. Instead, as Lucifer, as bad as he was, you know, the king of hell, the progenitor of all demons, all of that, his son ends up not being the evil Antichrist. He ends up being a good guy. You know, it wants to help, has a soul, you know, very innocent in all respects, kind of naive in a lot of ways. But very powerful, and yet the power didn't corrupt him. Now, there was a time when he lost his soul, but he lost his soul trying to save people, and even then, he wasn't really evil. He was just kind of, oblivious, right? Didn't really care, or he did care that someone got hurt, but he really couldn't express the emotions for it. So that was really good how they did that. They took it in a 180. Hey, Lucifer's son is a good guy. And then, of course, Jack ends up becoming God. Okay, great. Didn't see that coming. Him going from, the powerful archangel Nephilim to, being an energy sucker or energy absorber. And when God kills Michael, he releases all types of God energy. And that's what Jack absorbs, ending up becoming just as powerful as God, but still even more powerful because he can drain power from other beings, drains God, boom. Now, I think it's a bit of a mistake that they left God alive because, let's face it, he is the creator of all things, right? So if anybody could figure out a way to get his power back, whether that be from Jack or by some other means, that would be God, right? He would know how to get his power back after Jack drained him. Okay. But they left him alive. Okay. Showed a little bit of mercy. Fine. That's not the big issue. But the big issue that I have is twofold. One of them being that, where was Jesus? Think about that. They went through everybody, all the demons, the reapers, the death, the four horsemen. They went through all of these different angels. They brought in Lucifer, the Leviathan. They even went with God having a sister going from the Bible, push back the darkness. Right? They went through all of that, even went through to Lucifer's son. And yet, throughout all of this, the one person, the one being from the Bible and all the demon lores that they leave out is Jesus. Here's what I would have done. All right, and don't worry, I got another clip coming up about another thing that I'm pissed off about. But here's what I would have done. I would have brought on Jesus on there, and I would say that if you're going to make, Jack, Lucifer's son, the good guy, then maybe you make Jesus a dick as well. Or maybe, here's an interesting thought, you bring in Jesus, and Jesus, kind of like Lucifer, is mad at God, has a very low opinion of him, never shows any emotions or whatever, the daddy issues that Lucifer had, but not having done all the evil stuff. And then have Jesus team up with Jack, and maybe they together should have gone through to take out God once and for all, and maybe something like that. Or maybe Jesus, partners up with God, and then Jack has to try and, I know I was going to say Lucifer, and then Jack has to try and take on both of them. Either way you wanted to play it, whether Jesus would have been on their side, on the side of the Winchesters, or would have been on God's side, how the heck could you go through the entire series, go through all these myths, all these lores, all of these Bible, interpretations, and leave out that one key character? You went all the way back to the Garden of Eden and Adam, for crying out loud, and then you leave out Jesus? Okay, I know I'm going on a bit of a rant here about that, but how the heck do you leave that out? How is that the one being in all of mythology, all of Bible stories that you leave out? Heck, you even displayed the pagan gods. Yes, Lucifer, destroyed Odin. You had an episode where you even showed Zeus. You're going to go through all of that and leave out Jesus? Man, why? I know I'm overly ticked off about this, about how they left that out, because it seemed obvious. And then, you went through and you made Michael a putz. Right? You made Michael a putz. All right, so he was God's most loyal angel. Then he figured out what God truly is, just a self-absorbed story writer. It seems like he was going to team up with the Winchesters to finally take out God, but then he still had this jealousy issue with God going to Lucifer for help, which, by the way, you never actually explained how you got Lucifer out of the empty. I mean, as the way the show set it up, God had no power in the empty, and the empty was just equal in power to God. In fact, in the realm of the empty was more powerful than God. So you didn't even explain how he got Lucifer out of the empty. All right. Or was that really Lucifer? Or did they make a Lucifer, a doppelganger? I mean, did he go through and pull Lucifer from a parallel reality before he destroyed that parallel reality? Did he just recreate Lucifer and, whatever? All right. You never explain that. And then, of course, the jealousy between Lucifer and Michael. And then Michael turns on the Winchesters at the last second. You would think Michael would know the moment he teamed up with the Winchesters, that would be unforgivable. And God would never accept him back, and that his fate was sealed. That either destroy God or God would destroy him. Okay. And then, the whole when God destroys Michael, releases all types of God power, that's what finally gives Jack the power to defeat God. All right. But I'm still ticked off that you left that out. And I'm sure there was another character or two that you could have put in there, but for some reason, you didn't. Why? You had 15 seasons to introduce this. I mean, heck, you even had Gabriel, go through and pretend to be a pagan god. You could have done something. You could have done something to go through the rest of the lore. But you know what? I guess there's another reason why I am a little upset with how the ending happened. And that is how you killed off Dean Winchester. All right, you killed off Dean Winchester in the most pathetic way possible, such as this.
All right. Let's go find those kids. Get them out of here.
Sam? No. I don't think I'm going anywhere.
What? What are you talking about?
Some of my back. I feel like it's right through me.
Really? That's the death that you give Dean Winchester? So, out of everything that he has gone up against over the course of the series, now I get it. You're saying that, well, God is no longer interfering, keeping them alive, and Jack is doing this whole non-interference policy, but that's the death you give Dean? Just taking on a regular nest of vampires, which doesn't even amount to anything compared to what he's fought over the series. And just because they managed to push him into a barbed pole sticking out of a wood frame, I mean, that's the death you give him. You should have given him a much more heroic death than that. I mean, that's another reason why I'm ticked off about this ending. That's how you give Dean's death. Now I get it. He goes to heaven. You find out that Jack changed heaven, is no longer a replay of the golden oldies. You get to actually spend time with friends and family. And his car's up there for him to go driving on. And instead of playing the usual song at the beginning of the season finale, they play it while he's up in heaven driving around in his car. And then they do a montage of Sam going on through the rest of his life and, obviously getting married, having a kid, and then dying as a very old man, meeting up with Dean at the very end on the bridge, looking like he did when Dean died. Okay. Which then I don't get then why Sam can go back to looking the way he did when Dean last saw him, but other people would still look old, right? Balls, right? Oh, man. So I guess I'm just trying to go through and take a look at how all of that developed. But then you never really explained heaven there. Okay, so over the course of the series, a lot of angels were killed. In fact, Castiel killed a lot of angels when he had the Leviathans in him, and he was, temporarily going to be the new god. And he killed so many different angels. In fact, so many angels had died over the series that when one episode, if you remember, they're saying heaven has power outages. There isn't enough angels to keep heaven powered, and that they need an archangel. So, okay, Jack comes in, changes heaven, mixes some things around. I mean, did Jack change how heaven is powered? Did he bring back all the angels? Or did he just create a whole bunch of new angels? I mean, you didn't really explain all this. I mean, this is all plot holes. Now, whether or not that is important, okay, I get it. I'm nitpicking there. I understand that. But that's the death you give Dean. So I guess I'm kind of ticked off twofold. One, you forgot the one character, Jesus, in all of this. I don't care if you made Jesus a bad guy teaming up with God. How did you miss that? And then you give Dean this pathetic of a death? What were you thinking? And as far as it goes, I think if you just would have ended it one episode sooner, Jack becomes God, he walks off, fades away, and then maybe you just do a montage of both Sam and Dean growing old, dying old men, and then going to heaven. That would have been a better ending. Better ending. You wouldn't have given Dean such a pathetic death. And why did you give Dean that death? I mean, what was the toss-up there between Dean and Sam? What is it? Just because Sam looks, much bigger and bulkier, and therefore you had to have the smaller guy die? I just don't get what the heck you were thinking with that. Now I guess the question is, are you going to do a spinoff? Obviously, Sam had at least one child. What are you going to do with that? Are you going to be able to do kind of a spinoff show from that? And then maybe there you introduce the concept of Jesus. And when God died, does that mean, does that mean you're no longer going to be able to introduce Jesus in a spinoff? Is it going to be, Jesus and, bringing back Castiel to team up with Sam's son? Is that something you're going to do? Or, what? And as far as it goes, Jack, what were you thinking? You didn't clean up all the demons off the earth? I mean, here's another thing. You would have thought, with everything that Jack experienced, the whole death of Dean could have been avoided. It could have easily been avoided, and here's how. Jack, upon becoming God and bringing back every human that Chuck had wiped out, he could have used his powers as God to take all those demons, right, and put them back in hell, put them back in purgatory, put, the worst of the worst back in the box. He could have gone through and eliminated all demons from the earth, locked up hell so not a single one of them could ever get out again. And then there wouldn't have been a need for Sam and Dean to fight and for Dean then to get such a pathetic death. I mean, think about this. The whole fight between Michael and Lucifer was supposed to determine whether it was a reign of hell or peace for the rest of eternity on earth. Well, guess what? Michael and Lucifer both gone, both destroyed, and God replaced by Jack. Right? That alone should have gone through and had Jack, close all the gates of hell, all the doors, and sent all the demons packing off of the earth. Whether he sends them back to hell or just completely destroys them altogether. So what was he thinking? Not cleaning it up, just kind of disappearing and, hey, guess what? It's the status quo. I mean, if you would have gone through and got rid of all the demons so that it's just normal life, no supernatural beings left on the earth, that would have been a better ending. But Jack becomes God. Life continues just as it did under Chuck, where demons roam free, they're still hunters, and Ding dies. I mean, they had a lot of missed opportunities here, is what I'm saying. And it's because of those missed opportunities that I am kind of frustrated and disappointed with how they ended Supernatural. That said, I'm still going to go back and rewatch the entire series. I'm going to go on a marathon here to rewatch it. I just thought, they should have wrapped it up. The only reason to have not done that is that they wanted to leave the door open for a spin-off series. But would a spin-off really work? I don't know. You tell me. Do you think that they're just trying to leave the door open for a spin-off just in case they want to tell more stories? Let me know. If you're watching this on YouTube or other video channels, leave a comment in the video notes below. Let me know if you think that they're going to try and do a spin-off and whether or not you think that spin-off would work. All right, so that's it for this episode. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe, whether you're listening on the audio or you're watching this on video. Hit the notification bell if the platform you're watching on has a notification bell so that you don't miss when another episode is available. Thank you so much, and I will be back again soon.